Andrew, given the market at the moment, what are the main things to consider when selling or buying a house?
Well, it's quite interesting. In this instance, we're looking at a lower ground floor flat. Now, it's not just what that flat looks like from the outside, it's what the whole building looks like. And in this case, it looks pretty good.
And the inside?
So we'll have to go and see that. Let's have a look.
So, we're entering the front room now. Talk me through this, your first impression.
Bland is probably the first impression. Interestingly enough, normally shutters like this say style. It's going to be nice inside. So in fact, I was quite excited by coming in here, but quite disappointed.
Cost effectively, how could one spruce up this room?
Oh, very, very, very easy. In fact, this is so easy to do in here. Bit of a rug, bit of a cushions, a few pictures on the wall, and you'd be absolutely fine in here. It might get a bit better as we go through, yeah? That's it. Okay, you lead the way. Oh, right. Oh, this is small. This is, well, I mean, it's very, very small. What's that? Half a metre that side of the bed and 30th of a metre the other side. So because this must be, presumably, oh, it is, it's the bathroom. I mean, that's not terribly large, but kind of get away with that. Right, so even this isn't conventional. This is actually quite an awkward one. It really is. I mean, we've got this little area out here which has got the sink, and then there's this garden out here.
What difference can the garden make to the price of a house?
Well, it depends entirely where the property is. But all I can say is for this area, this part of central London, lower ground floor flat, even this tiny garden with that noise, a big difference, a big positive difference. But I would want to see more made of this because this really is a wasted opportunity up here.
Can't take any more of the drilling.
No,
let's go back inside.
Let's go back inside. Well, they're going to stop now. Okay, well, with this house, the deal breaker, there are two areas here that would mess it up, and that's the bedroom and the kitchen, which are too important in a one-bedroom flat to be ignored. You know, for example, if you take a very average three-bedroom home that would consist of a lounge, a dining room, a kitchen, two double bedrooms, a single bedroom and a bathroom, a totally normal home. Those rooms will be fairly evenly proportioned. You know, there'll be a small single bedroom, bedroom one will be bigger than bedroom two, those sorts of scenarios. So in respect of those sorts of rooms, deal breakers will then tend to be kitchens and bathrooms.
How much of a difference are home information packs going to make to buying or selling?
Okay, well, let's look at those two things separately. For the buying, really nothing but probably good for the buyer. Why is it good for the buyer? Well, the great news is that everything in theory is ready before the property's even gone on the market. So, for example, if there's an extension, you can clarify that it's got planning permission. You can see the terms of the sales contract. You can see the copy of the local search, so whether there's any development planned for your area. So generally very, very good. Now, the energy rating of a home is, I would say, probably more interesting news for buyers. And obviously, it's a way of calculating possibly as a buyer how much it's going to cost to run. But it's also quite an insight as to whether maybe the property might need a new boiler, or whether, you know, the lighting isn't very efficient, or whether it's going to have high bills. So pretty good on the buyer's side. Seller's side, it's extra work. In some ways, it's very good because it does mean you've got to be really committed to sell. If you're not committed to sell, you certainly don't want to waste your time doing all this before, you know, just to test the market. So I think that's very, very good. Regarding the energy efficiency rating of your home, now this is a new area. This is a new area for me and everybody else. I think this is where Empower, which is one of the big energy suppliers in the country, they've done a great load of research on this and found out that we actually haven't got a blooming clue about any of it, which I would say is probably 100% accurate. Now they've got a website which is npower.com/HIP. If you go onto that, you can get telephone numbers and even information of people that will actually come to your home and give you an assessment on the house.
Now, enough about Britain. What about buying abroad, Eastern Europe, Bulgaria, for example?
If you want to buy in an emerging market, you have to sit back and think, right, you're buying this property, but the first thing you then have to do is think, who is going to buy it from me? Because obviously if you're buying for investment, you buy this property in the theory that in a few years' time or 5 years or 10 years' time that you are going to get more than you paid for it. Now generally the rule of thumb is providing you keep any property anywhere for 10 to 15 years, you will be fine, okay? The percentage of growth will vary across the world, but you will be fine. And in some countries that go from terrible to fantastic over a period of a decade, you could just be laughing all the way to the bank. But the truth is, obviously, you don't know. These are high risk. Don't anybody let you tell you anything. These are high risk investments, not low risk investments, high risk investments. So I would always be very, very cautious. And for example, in an emerging market, let's take Poland or somewhere like that, with quite a strong capital city, or the Czech Republic or somewhere like that, where their capital cities are actually quite strong, okay, in likelihood of economy improving and of popularity and things like that. And what you then do is you don't look at all the developer stuff. Why would you, right? You don't look at you look at the existing housing stock. You go into the second-hand housing market. You find an apartment that's affordable to the locals. You upgrade it, you keep it for so many years, and you watch it rise. Why? Because when that comes to be sold, not only can you sell it to another investor, you could also sell it to a local person as well.
What about buying a property there and then letting it out?
Absolutely. Well, that's what you would do. You obviously have to keep it rented out whilst you're holding the property. But also, you see, renting out an established property in an established area is probably going to be long-term a lot easier. When you're offered rent guarantees from most developers, in many, many, many cases, you are paying for that in the purchase price. Why on earth are they going to give you X number of pounds or X number of euro per month? They're not, are they? They're going to add it on to the purchase price.
Now, finally, it's predicted that the average house price in Britain is going to reach £300,000 by 2012.
Yeah, I don't see that that's not possible.
So, given that, what do you think will happen to the housing market?
I think it'll carry on in the UK like it has done for the last numerous decades, with lots of ups and downs. You know, the London market is usually the one to watch. Really is the one to watch. All people that are sat in other parts of the UK will say, blooming London, reflect everything. Well, unfortunately it does, because it's got a massive population, it's the head of the country, and everything revolves around a capital city. The London market's rising and kicking at the moment. Why? All the clues were there last year, and the clues were very, very clear. London house prices were here, the rest of the country was nearly here. And you'd look at a flat in Fulham and go, my God, that's not far off the flat in central Leeds. It can't be that close. So either Leeds had to take a massive drop or London had to go up. And guess what? London's gone up. So there are basic clues, but a tip for the UK is always monitor closely what's happening on the London market.
Andrew, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Ben.